Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight for KREM 2 News at 6. I'm Cody Proctor. Mark and Whitney are on special assignment tonight. We'll hear from them in a few minutes. But first, let's get right to some breaking news on the murder of 4 University of Idaho students. Moscow police now say the murders happened while the victims were most likely asleep. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk is joining us now live in the studio tonight. And Kyle, what can you tell us at this hour?
Well, Cody, Moscow police just put out new information. They still don't have a suspect, but they have started to rule some people out. Tonight, authorities are also dispelling some rumors being shared online.
New details are emerging in the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. Tonight, the Latah County coroner says the 4 students were likely asleep. Some had defensive wounds and each victim was stabbed multiple times. Authorities found no sign of sexual assault. Moscow police say at this point in the investigation, they do not believe the 2 surviving roommates or the man seen standing near a local food truck were involved in the murders. Police also addressed rumors swirling online claiming the victims were gagged and tied, saying those are not accurate, and the identity of the 911 caller has not been released. Detectives say they've received nearly 500 tips which are being processed, investigated, and cleared. 38 people who may have information about the murders have been interviewed. The whereabouts of the killer and the knife used are still unknown. Detectives seized the contents of 3 dumpsters on King Road to look for evidence. Police have also gone to local businesses to see if anyone recently purchased a fixed-blade knife. Anyone who saw something suspicious, has video surveillance, or can provide relevant information about the murders is asked to call the Moscow Police Department.
And a lot of resources have been put on this case. 128 members of law enforcement, including 46 FBI investigators, all on the ground in Moscow trying to figure out who did this and why. Cody.
Kyle, thank you so much. And tonight we're getting more perspective on this high-profile case from a man who spent decades working alongside the FBI. Chris Bertram's an associate professor of criminal justice and says the fact a knife was used is unique given the fact mass killings usually involve a gun. He says detectives will have to examine where the victims were stabbed and whether the attack was an overkill. On top of looking into the victims and what was going on in their lives leading up to the murder, Bertram says police are likely focusing on the people they knew.
Somebody that saw them, somebody that went to school with them, somebody that associated with them in the community or at work or in some type of endeavor. And they became fixated on them, and we have to look at that. Or, as in some cases we look with school shootings, was this based on peer rejection or social rejection?
Bertram says police may also be asking around to see if anyone close to the victims had a fascination with knives. Now, in other new developments tonight, the Idaho State Police released a map roughly outlining where the students were late Saturday night going into early Sunday morning. At this hour, they're hoping it'll help the public remember any information that will prove helpful in this investigation. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley has been in Moscow tracking this story all week long, as she's joining us from the crime scene tonight with that newly released timeline and map.
Investigators are still trying to piece together where the 4 University of Idaho students went the night before they were found in their Moscow home, stabbed to death. Investigators are hoping the map released today will provide additional tips from the community.
The map details the night of Saturday, November 12th into the early hours of Sunday, November 13th. It highlights locations and approximate times when Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan were in downtown Moscow, while Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were at the Sigma Chi house. Investigators believe Madison and Kaylee were at the Corner Club on Saturday from 8 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. Sunday. Then they were at the Grub Truck on Main Street at 1:40 a.m. 5 minutes later, the map says they returned to their home on King Road. I drove that route this afternoon, starting at 4th and Main and ending at the King Road home. With some light traffic on the road, I arrived at the house in about 3 minutes. This suggests it's reasonable to believe Madison and Kaylee traveled by car from the food truck, but that detail has not been confirmed by police. Investigators also say Ethan and Xana were at a party at Sigma Chi from 8 to 9 p.m., then returned to the home on King Road at 1:45 a.m. The fraternity is a short 3-minute walk from the house, but still, there is a 5-hour gap on their location between the party and arriving at home. Investigators hope someone might remember being at or near the locations they've identified around the same time and potentially saw something suspicious or relevant to the investigation. Police are asking those people to call the tip line or email with that information.
This is all good information, but it brings up even more questions, such as, did investigators use the students' cell phones to identify the locations and times on this map? Did Madison and Kylie walk or drive or get a ride back to the home? And did Xana and Ethan spend only 1 hour at the Sigma Chi fraternity? I have several calls into Idaho State Police and other local authorities working this investigation. I have not heard back, but we will continue to press for answers as this story develops. Reporting in Moscow, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Amanda, thank you so much. And just into our newsroom, Moscow police said Maddie and Kaylee took an Uber home from the food truck. We don't know if police have spoken with the driver. In the meantime, as we continue to look ahead, the Coeur d'Alene, Texas Roadhouse is holding a fundraiser in honor of the 4 victims, with some of the proceeds going to their families. Xana Kernodle was a server at the restaurant before moving to Moscow. In honor of her, Texas Roadhouse is donating 10% of sales to the families of the victims. The event takes place Monday, November 21st from 3 to 9 p.m. New today, there's now an email for any information and to help with this case. They set up a tip line for people to call if they have any information about the investigation. That phone number and the email, both on your screen right now. The Idaho State Police says they've seen an increase in tips since this week's press conference. And at this hour, we're continuing to track the news coming out of Moscow tonight. So be sure to stay with us here on KREM 2 News for the latest updates and for all of our reporting on these deaths. Go to KREM.com.